Prepare yourself for List Off, the gaming podcast where your hosts, Brian and Ryan, rank the things they love. 3, 2, 1, List Off!
The lights are bright, the red carpet has been rolled out, and all the beautiful people are dressed to the nines, because we are here to discuss our games of the year.
Yes.
And not just we, as in we, the List Off we. Also, we have Keith from the main quest, a man who needs no introduction, yet still I give him one.
The #1 retro gaming podcast.
Right, that's semantics, buddy. I mean, we're the #1
list-based podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe not, but it's cool.
You're 10 through 1.
Yeah, we're somewhere in there. Yeah, exactly. I don't even know. Are there 10? Who knows? Who knows? So how you guys doing? How's everybody doing tonight? You guys are both in tuxedos, as I can see. So well done on that. You got the memo.
I've got my specialty shirt with the fine cat hair.
Oh,
I
beautiful.
don't know if you can tell, but
lovely.
Yes, it's my own cat. So I didn't buy this off of some black market store.
Yeah.
So just don't get the wrong idea.
We did give you a little intro at the end of last episode saying you were our first guest, and you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your podcast to kick it off, to kind of acquaint yourself with them.
So I'm the host of the Main Quest podcast. It's basically more or less a retro gaming podcast where I talk about games that I played as a child. It's basically covering my entire childhood up until my adulthood, with probably going up to the Xbox 360 era. I plan on going through all of that. It's going to be a really long ride, but and then I just talk about them, more or less, I guess, review them and see if they still hold up today. Mm-hmm. More or less see if I could recommend them to somebody in our modern times.
Right. Really good concept. Yeah.
And I do delve into more modern games as well. Like I've done Hades, Horizon Zero Dawn, and you were just on for Returnal.
I was.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm going to be, by the time this comes out, or maybe the second part comes out of this 2-part episode, my game of the year episode will also be airing, which I recommend you guys tune in, because it's going to be a very different list. Because since I mainly play a lot of retro games, and I also play a lot of games, more modern games that didn't come out in 2021, they're new to me, so it counts. It totally counts for me as far as what my favorite games were in 2021. So a little bit different list. This one is specifically 2021.
Nice. Yes, it is. It should be.
Yeah. So if I followed the rules correctly, these all came out this year.
Right.
But my real list is going to be on my end.
I guess we get the fake list. But still, honestly,
you get the second place list.
Yeah, exactly. I'm fine with that. Runner up. Definitely be sure to check out Keith and this podcast over there at the Main Quest. But our format's going to be a little different for these shows. Typically, we talk about what we've been playing, but in this episode, we're just going to, because there's going to be so many of us going over so many games, we're just going to lead right in with our honorable mentions. A notable game that did not make our list, and as our guest of honor, dressed in your finest cat hair tux, we'll start with you, Keith. What was your game that didn't quite make the top 10?
So I had this on my list, and the more I looked at it, it didn't feel wrong, but it didn't feel right to have it on there. And that was new Pokemon Snap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really did enjoy it.
Right.
It looks great, plays great especially for what it's doing, and the console that it's on, the Switch, which Switch is not aging very gracefully at this point. There were some hitches, and I noticed it was weird because while you're playing the game, everything works perfectly fine. But when you're going between stages and going like to the lab, the loading screen has a lot of hitching. There's just a lot of slowdown just for the loading screen, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, that is a little odd.
Yeah.
It's just a little nitpick that I had, but otherwise, great game. But at the end of the day, it's just Pokemon Snap again.
Which, yeah,
It's not bad, which isn't
Right,
a bad thing,
right,
but
right.
it was also like, I don't know if this is like a game of the year contender for me. I just don't think it belongs on this list with all these other games.
Yeah.
Fun game, but just doesn't quite make the cut for me.
I get it. No, I totally get it. It's a good pick. I've yet to experience the new Pokemon Snap, but it seems like it would belong here. As for me, my honorable mention is a VR game. And I'm so glad I have the opportunity to talk about it because I was afraid it wasn't going to make my list. But it is Demeo. I don't know if you listened back earlier in the year, I was talking about this game quite a bit. It's kind of a dungeon crawler, card-based system, RPG, all in VR, where the board's in front of you. You can manipulate the board. You actually pick up your character and move them and put the card down to select your move. And it's a really, really great VR game. The developer has since, I think, made at least 2 updates, free DLCs for the game that take you into different dungeon types against different enemy types, give you different skills and weapons to use as well. So they're definitely putting a lot of effort into it. And unfortunately, I haven't played either of those updates, but that's my own oversight. I think if I had it, this game very well may have been higher on my list. But if you have VR and you specifically a Quest 2, I think they actually just made a PC version of this where you don't need to play it in virtual reality. So if you want to give it a shot, I can highly recommend this game, Demeo. It's a lot of fun.
Great pick. Yeah. All right. So my honorable mention is Into the Pit. So I think I talked about this one a little bit at one point during the year. It's a good game. I like it enough. It's basically a cross between Hades and Hexen. It's got the visual style of like a Hexen. So that really grainy look, very 90s PC shooter. With the Hades trappings of you're going down into these levels, and each time you defeat all the enemies, you get a boon, basically. And all these boons are just stacking the entire time. And you just basically get different powers in each hand. And you'll get like, I don't know, ice shooting out of one and fire out of another and different spells that are happening. But it's cool just stacking these boons and seeing how far you can get down into the pit. It didn't quite make it. I just didn't spend as much time as I wanted to because so many games came out this year that I wanted to at least touch. But this one, being on Game Pass, automatically made it something that I was going to at least try. And I always, every once in a while, I got a Hexen itch where I need to play something like that. And this definitely did it. So that's why it was a good game for me.
Cool. Yeah, I have yet to try it. It's on Game Pass and I haven't even downloaded it. So.
Yeah, I don't think you had an Xbox at the time when it came out.
I did. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So. I guess I was playing other things. Who knows?
It went into the pit for you.
It did. It did. That backlog is definitely a pit. But yeah, I guess that'll do it for our honorable mentions. We're just going to go ahead and get straight into our lists. All right, so we will start with Keith. But first, Keith, I do have a bit of a bone to pick with you.
What's up?
You had said you've been pretty outspoken, I think, about 2021 being a bad year for games, right? And I think generally, like most people would probably agree with that. There's been a ton of delays. I mean,
when I say bad, it's not bad. It's been dry.
Right. I can see that. Yeah, because all the big, like the ones that most people were waiting for got pushed into 2022.
Yeah.
No argument there, but there were, I think it offered a unique opportunity for smaller games to shine in ways, in like ways they might not have had the opportunity to if these other bigger games weren't pushed back. I mean, unfortunately, if you're a smaller game coming out in February of 2022, forget about it, right?
Yeah.
But
I do want to preface though, I guess I do lean a little more towards like the smaller like indie side of games than I do like the big AAA,
Right.
blockbusters and stuff like that. A lot of those games, they bore me. They're
Right.
just kind of boring. They all seem like they're made with an algorithm.
Yeah.
You play one AAA open world, you play them all.
No
It's
Very
argument.
samey.
Yeah.
yeah, right. So I feel like a lot of the smaller games, they have the guts to really try and innovate. And even if it doesn't work, at least they tried. Whereas a lot of the AAA games coming out, they can't experiment. There's really no room for it unless there was an indie game that proves that something worked really well. And so then the bigger developers try to emulate that and use it to the best of their abilities.
Milk that cow. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't really have a bone to pick with you, but I was just trying to bring up the point that I'm right and you're wrong when it comes to. No, I'm just kidding, dude.
No, but it's totally fair because I think we start to go into our lists. I feel like I'm probably going to talk about a lot of games that nobody even heard about. So
Right.
That's great.
Cool. That's good. Yeah, because there's definitely some AAA games on mine, and I would think they actually did take some risks, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Why don't you kick off with your number 10? Man?
Oh man, I'm ready. Video games happen, man. Here we
They
go.
sure did.
So by number 10, which also almost didn't make this list, and I'll explain why as I go into it. Eastward.
Okay.
Which is a top-down action game. So it's essentially it's Zelda. But for Eastward, there's a lot more story. There's a lot more heart to that story. There's a lot more narrative than you would find in a typical Zelda game, for instance. And so the narrative revolves around the main characters, John, and his, I'll say, adoptive daughter, Sam, because I don't want to spoil anything. And they live their lives out in like this underground, like mining community called Pot Rock Isle. And then eventually things happen and they have to get excommunicated topside, which the world above has kind of been deemed as this like hellscape where nobody comes back from. So why this game didn't make why this game almost didn't make my top 10
right.
is because the gameplay is easily the weakest part of Eastward, up to the point that I would just say that it's downright bad.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
The puzzles are not very good. They're fine, but they're very weak, very samey. Hitboxes are kind of all over the place. Your attacks aren't very responsive. A lot of enemies will just rush right through your attacks sometimes for really no reason at all. Your character Sam has a projectile which you have to aim. And when you aim it, even though the reticle will be directly pointed where you want it to go, the projectile just will veer off and completely miss your target. Yeah. Stuff like that. Just the things that you learn at the beginning of the game as far as the gameplay goes work exactly the same they do in minute 1 as they do in hour 20. Well, there's no real expansion of the gameplay at all.
Right.
So that whole thing is kind of a letdown.
Right.
And the gameplay itself is the game itself is pretty linear, which that's fine with me, but that might be a thing that will turn certain people off. But what I really want to come across with my point for this game, even it being on here, is that it's the story. Like, it's really good. Like, it's really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And fortunately, there's a lot more story in this game. A lot more just kind of like setting your controller down on your lap and like just tapping A.
Right.
And just like reading what's going on the screen. Then there is gameplay. So that's
good. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
If the gameplay sucks, that sounds like great news. Yeah.
And I believe it's if I'm saying it right, Pixpol. Pixpol are the developers, and they've clearly taken a ton of inspiration as far as the narrative goes from Earthbound and Undertale, because they give so much character,
right,
so much charm and attention to each of these side characters. It's not even, never mind the main characters, because John gets a lot of his characteristics from Sam. John's a silent protagonist, and Sam is this very loud, outspoken, very innocent child. She's awesome. She's one of the most incredible parts of the story.
Yeah.
But then also you get like the unique environments, also the unique locations. You get this place called New Dance City, which is just so freaking cool. I love it's almost like this like a dingy, very urban Japanese setting, and the whole city is like built on the side of like an old dam.
Nice. So very like scenic, picturesque.
Yeah. And there's this other location called Monkhollywood, which is a roaming like Hollywood-esque like studio that's built inside of a roaming train that's run by filmmaking monkeys.
I was wondering if it was like monks or monkeys by the name.
It's really reminiscent of Saturn Valley in Earthbound.
Right.
You got all the Mr. Saturns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. It's just such a delightful game. And then of course you can't have all the light stuff without darkness, because there's some very unsettling things that happen in this game. I can't spoil it.
Don't spoil. Yeah.
Story gets very dark.
Definitely.
And by the end of it, I mean, like John and Sam, their relationship is just like, it's one of those endings where you just kind of like want to crawl up in a ball and like just have a moment, you know? I think this is a solid 10 just for the story alone.
Cool.
You know?
Is it on Switch and PC or just Switch?
I know it's on Switch, definitely. I don't know about PC.
Okay.
And then just real quick, there's a game inside the game.
Oh, neat.
So there's this, it's called Earthborn, which is an entirely separate playable 8-bit JRPG within the game.
Wow.
It's essentially just, it's Dragon Warrior.
Oh, cool.
It's just Dragon Warrior. You look at the main character of Earthborn,
right,
and it's the hero.
Nice.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's this totally separate thing, and you could totally just spend 20 hours in that game alone.
That's cool.
So
that's cool. So it's a Switch and Mac, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Switch and Mac. Yeah. Go figure. Go figure. Well, Eastward, number 10. Good pick, man. Definitely.
Yeah. Thanks.
Good pick. Yeah. No worries. So my number 10 is Chivalry 2. I loved this game, man. Online multiplayer strictly, and it's so much fun. It is medieval combat, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. There were other medieval combat games that are very much totally skill based, and you have to understand each and every movement and parry and dodge and all that. But in this, no, you could just go in like flailing your weapon around, and you will have enough success to keep yourself playing. It's so much fun to play, and it has all these great one-liners, like it's just a flesh wound. It's like self-referential. It references Monty Python and all sorts of other media, and it all is done in a ridiculous manner. You could pick up like people's severed heads and use them as weapons and throw them at people. You could pick up harps and throw them at people, like anything you could find, chickens, whatever. You could throw your weapon at people, which is cool, and then you can just go up to them and hit them. So it's cool. Even when you're outmatched, sometimes you'll be in this fight where people understand the parry system and the dodge system, and they deflect all your blows, and you can't win. But then you like throw them off guard by just chucking your sword at their head, and you can kill them, and then like pick your weapon back up and go along. So it's just a ton of fun. I think this is one that not a lot of people are playing. There have been big multiplayer releases this year, without naming any names, but this is one that I feel like should not be overlooked. I think anybody who is a fan of competing online would have a ton of fun with this. And point being, I don't even have fun competing online. Like that sort of thing typically gives me anxiety about like I have to do well for my team. Not this, because like who the hell cares? You're having so much fun playing the game. It doesn't matter. There's environmental stuff you could use too. Like, you know, you could hit like braziers and knock them down on people. They put so much thought into like not only the ridiculousness and not taking itself too seriously, but also the realisticness of how you can interact with the environment and use everything around you as a weapon. And it's Torn Banner Studios that did this game, and they deserve all the praise in the world. And they definitely, if this sounds like something that interests you, please go out and purchase it. It's actually 33% off right now. We're not sponsored, by the way, by Chivalry 2, but it's 33% off right now during the Epic Game Store holiday sale. And that runs through January 3rd. So if you're hearing this and you haven't played Chivalry 2 and you just want to go grab a battle axe and like chop some heads off, this is the game for you. And there's all these different game modes too. You know, it's never just like a single thing. Usually you're either defending something or attacking something, whether it be like a moving caravan or a castle or things like that. But all of the game modes, objectives, and maps that I played were unique and fun and never seemed like one side had the advantage over the other. But yeah, definitely. I think this is, it goes without saying that I feel as though my entire list are games that everybody should check out. But it was just a lot of fun to play, man. It didn't need all the story and all that. It was just a lot of fun.
It was so chaotic whenever you did videos of it.
Yeah.
There's just everyone is swinging wildly all the time and just hoping to hit something.
Well, it looks that way, but there's actually like a lot of nuance to the combat if you choose to you know get into it. But you don't necessarily have to have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I never had heard of this game until you guys mentioned it on your show, and seeing all the videos and clips of people playing it, it is definitely prone to having some of those most chaotic random moments that are meme worthy in a lot of ways. It just could have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But for a lot of the reasons you mentioned, I'm not big on multiplayer stuff, so it's probably something I won't pick up myself, but it looks like a lot of fun.
I think the biggest reason I didn't keep playing it is because I didn't have anybody to play with. I even put it out there like, hey, if you play Chivalry 2, like let me know, we'll play a game together. And that still stands. Like I will jump back on, but it creates those memorable moments so well because of the chaos. You know, the online multiplayer, like memorable moments you only get from online multiplayer games. And I had so many of them, but I didn't have anybody to share it with. So it's like, did it ever happen? Did I ever really throw that harp and kill that guy with it? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, it happened, but like, can I prove it? Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see the player base because that game definitely had its moment, but there have been so many other releases now that are taking that multiplayer time. So
I'm sure there's still a player base though, because they did a Halloween update. They did a Christmas one right now. There's like what do they call it? Like something with chivalry in it, right? Chivalmus or something where like they have like Christmas trees in the environments and stuff like that. And yeah, so the developers is having fun with the game for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, my number 10 is exactly what your honorable mention was, Ryan, and that is Demeo.
Yeah.
This was another one where, same thing. I didn't get enough time into it to really. Sounds really fun. All of these different expansions. What the Rat King was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
But to know that you can play this now without VR, this game needs to be played in VR. I don't think you can really have the same experience. That's like saying you should play Beat Saber in 2D mode. That I don't really.
I could see it translating to a mouse well, but like I cannot see it translating to a controller.
No. I think there's just too many aspects of this game that it's about being in VR and simulating being around the table with others. I mean, you could see like your other friends moving their characters around and that was an important aspect of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game, you can really zoom in, as if you lean over the table physically.
Yeah.
You can see all the different intricacies of it and kind of look around corners and see what's coming. I think that game has a lot of things going for it.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see if they build it out into something bigger where maybe people just use this like tabletop simulator.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. They did a lot of cool things with line of sight too. When you're in these dungeons, I really like how you can only see the enemies that are within your line of sight. Like you kind of have to uncover the dungeon. Yeah. I'm glad it made your list, man, because I had a lot of fun playing it with you.
Yeah, it was fun, but donning the VR headset is a little cumbersome, and
for you,
for me, it's some setup. It is for sure.
Yeah. Get yourself a Quest too, man.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah, I do recommend it. So Keith, you ready for your number 9? Are you done,
so.
Brian? You're done, right? You're good, Brian?
That was it. That's all I had to say.
It was Resolution Games, by the way. Resolution Games for Demeo.
Okay, cool.
I don't want to step all over the president and CEO of this stuff, so.
That's true. All hail Brian.
That's right.
Lord Brian, not Byron. Lord Brian. Pretty sure this whole show was your idea, and you do most of the work for it. So I'm a proper president then. You are. You do a good job, man. That's great.
Wait, what does that make me? Like the intern?
The special guest, man.
Okay.
You're the special guest. You're the reason people are here.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So my number 9, if I may, Boyfriend Dungeon.
Cool.
Oh, nice.
I have a certain soft spot for dating
boyfriends.
Sims.
Oh,
also boyfriends.
Hey.
Also, yeah.
So like me, right?
I mean, check out those pecs, dude. I mean, I saw them before the show. So viewers, listeners, that's an OnlyFans thing. So
all right.
I don't know if this is like we have live video feed into Ryan's room here, but yeah, there's a joke there somewhere.
But yeah, I usually avoid dating sims for the most part because they're just they cater so much to the male gaze where it's just kind of feels icky, you know?
Yeah.
And as much as don't get me wrong, I love waifus.
We know you do.
But for the most part, that's not for me. Like if I wanted, be a heterosexual straight male, I could just date in real life and have a miserable time. I don't need to do it in a video game. So Boyfriend Dungeon's actually the only second dating sim I've played, and the other one being Dream Daddy, which is also really excellent.
Right.
But what drew me into
can I just rewind for a second there? So Dream Daddy's excellent.
Yeah.
I've never played a dating sim, so
it's crazy about Dream Daddy also, and I don't want to give them a shout out, but I guess give them a shout out. It's made by the Game Grumps, which is
really
can't stand the Game Grumps.
Yeah, same. So that's really surprising.
But it's really good. It's so much heart character. It's basically you're just a divorced dad trying to take care of your daughter.
Wow.
Essentially.
Interesting.
So it's really
positive
good.
Game, I hear.
Yeah.
Not to digress too much from the number 9 of yours.
No, you should check out Dream Daddy.
If I were to play a dating sim, I do want to try Doki Doki Panic.
Doki Doki. You mean Doki Doki Literature Club?
Literature
That's
Club.
right.
Sorry. What's Doki Doki Panic? I feel like
that's Super Mario Brothers too.
Oh, duh. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, Doki Doki Literature Club. I play Super Mario Brothers 2 as though it were a dating sim. That's why I always pick Luigi. But yes, Doki Doki Literature Club. Yeah, absolutely.
You love it how he kicks those legs around, don't you?
Super sweet.
Dan, aren't you guys glad you invited me on the show?
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely. We gave the same answer. That's great.
Boyfriend Dungeon. So what really attracted me to Boyfriend Dungeon is that it is a dating sim, but it's mixed with dungeon crawling. And if you're cool enough, you get to call the dungeons dunge. They refer to them as dunge in the game.
That's cool.
And the weapons that you take into the dungeon depend on who you're dating, because the people that you date are actually your weapons.
Yeah.
Almost everyone that you encounter in this game can turn into a weapon. They all have their own attributes. They all have their own story arcs.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of different storylines that you can follow. And just like in real life, hey, sometimes that stuff, it's just not going to work out. Not every weapon is for you. You can't, just grab onto the shaft of any weapon and expect it to work out,
Right.
The one that got away then.
There's plenty of options. You can like date a lightsaber. You can date a dagger if you want. Or if you're tired of dating human weapons that are human.
Oh, interesting.
You can just hang out with a tabby cat.
The fleshy kind. Fleshy kind of sword.
Okay.
You could just kind of sit around and hang out with a tabby cat that turns into brass knuckles, which is, hey, that's pretty much what I do every day in real life. Except he doesn't turn into brass knuckles. So
he's getting there.
But he might.
Yeah.
What if he could? What if he
That'd
could,
be cool.
though?
That'd be
cool. Yeah, and so, like I said, not every relationship you'll have will be successful, and it all depends on the different people you encounter, how those people relate to each other in the world. Most of the story is just about facing your fears, and every dungeon that you encounter has a different fear that your character has to overcome. I just think it's a really neat idea for a game. It's very well written, and as far as stories go and relationships go, this game goes places that I didn't really expect it to.
Oh, interesting.
And this game really helps with repeated playthroughs. I mean, I've played it three times through already. It's pretty short.
Right.
It's pretty short. And every time I did replay it, there was something else that I found out that I could do that I didn't know I could do that first playthrough. So yeah, Boyfriend Dungeon.
Cool.
It's fun.
That's
fun
another
stuff.
one
Nice.
on Game Pass too.
It is, yeah.
So
Surprise.
Game Pass, check it out. That's a good pick, man. I have yet to play it, but I may have to.
Spoiler alert, my game of the year is Game Pass.
Yeah, it should be. It should be everybody's.
Right.
So moving into my number 9, people may be surprised to see it here, but it is the Artful Escape. I did want to put this higher on my list. However, it's not a lot of game involved. It's visually stunning. It is a great story that really, I feel, only gets great after the first hour or so, and arguably that's when it gets good, and it only really gets great for like the last half of the game. Without giving too much away. It did start out kind of like cliche indie game to me, and that may not be fair, but it starts out like with folk music and like hipsters, and like I have to find myself. It's very heavy-handed in the beginning, so it's hard for me to get over that hump.
You're very right about that,
Yeah.
but also I'm going to talk about this on my Game of the Year episode. I love the folk music.
Oh yeah,
I think
it's
it's
good.
genuinely very good. It's not that Mumford and Sons slamming on a banjo.
I like Mumford and Sons.
Pop.
Be careful.
But
Tread
that's that's pop folk.
Yeah. Well, I like
This
Mumford
is like
and
some
Sons'
real
first album. I haven't really heard the newer stuff. I liked Mumford and Sons
or like
before.
Lumineers or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
This is more like Tallest Man on Earth.
Oh, like Bob Dylan. Yeah, it's good.
Bob Dylan,
Yeah.
type of stuff, right?
It's very much supposed to be Bob Dylan.
Very
You get that feeling.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, you look at the main character and you listen to the music and you're like, oh,
Right.
okay.
Right.
Okay, so I'm never gonna play this game then.
No, I think you should, because you're right. The folk music's good. All the music in this game is good. I actually think it had the second best sound design of any game this year that I've played. And yeah, it wasn't a ton of fun to play. There's so much happening in the background that is very like beautiful to look at, but there's just enough happening like for you to control, like jumping gaps and that sort of thing, that you're not really able to actually soak in all the things happening in the background. Only at certain times you are able to. I also feel as though it's just like you're moving from left to right.
Brian, do you like walking simulators?
If it tells a good story, and don't get me wrong, it sounds like I'm putting this game down. It made my top 10 games of the year. I love.
Do you like shredding on a guitar constantly?
Yeah, and I shredded.
Yeah,
throughout every
you're gonna
level,
like this game.
Yeah, basically, and I love where it goes. I love how empowering it is. It affected me personally, which, you know, not every game can do, but it made me feel like maybe I need to just like have more faith in myself and like what I want from life. That's not giving anything away, but yeah, I would definitely recommend everybody go experience this, because I would argue it's more of an experience than a game, but it is worth your time. Crack my top 10. I said a lot of negative things about it, but I love this game. If it's on this list, I love this game.
It's not on my list. Can I add just one more thing that I think should be said?
Yeah, absolutely.
For a game that has a lot of Simon Says rhythm sections,
yeah,
those sections are not very good.
They're not very good. No,
I found the button prompts would oftentimes, even though I would press the button, they would be like, no, man, you didn't do it right.
Right. For sure. I ran into the same problem.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I definitely ran into the same thing.
That was frustrating. That was the only part that was really that frustrating, where I was like, well, if this is your gameplay mechanic, all right. But...
Yeah, and so there's even the parts where you're like jumping and running and you have a slide, and like you also have a button that plays guitar, right? And
which is awesome.
I slid and jumped, even though I'm still holding down the guitar button, my guy would stop playing guitar and I would have to push the guitar button again. And like, I know it seems silly, but it's like you have very little controls, period, in this entire game.
Your character kind of moves like a marionette almost.
Yeah. I mean, and the art style is very deliberate, but it just seems
it looks
odd
great,
that like they couldn't even make the limited control scheme they had work like universally, right?
But when the game takes that turn into what it becomes, I mean, it's like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, definitely eye-opening, beautiful. Yeah, like I said, it beat Chivalry too, and I just talked about how much I loved Chivalry too, so you should get the feeling that I love this game. That's what you
every creature looks like your controller.
yeah, exactly. Every creature just happens to have eyeballs in the layout of your controller, and they light up. yeah. So that's it. That's my number 9.
All right, very good.
Yeah, cool game.
All right, well, my number 9, I have a feeling we might be talking about this more, but we'll see. It is the Ascent. And this is one that I really, man, I wanted to put more time into this one too, but I just didn't. Everything was scratching itches for me on this one. I really like the kind of top-down view that this game has. I think I mentioned it before when we talked about it a while ago, but Killzone Liberation for PSP was my style game. And this is the exact same like perspective, basically. So top down twin stick shooter, you're getting all sorts of different guns all the time and you're leveling up. It's basically an RPG, and putting stats and figuring out the numbers, basically. But yeah, and a completely co-op game. And I think that's where the game really shines. Again, I didn't play enough to really jump into that, but I wanted to. It sounded like a lot of fun to have like 4 people just tearing through this cyberpunk world. And that's the other thing. This game had unbelievable visuals. It was really good looking, and I played it when the Game Pass version was like not even up to date with the regular Xbox version. So I wasn't getting any of the specialty features of
like
it,
ray tracing or anything.
Exactly. But it still looked really good. So yeah, I think the lighting and the visuals are just so incredible in this game, and they show you what they want at any one time, and the camera is taking control. You have no control of it yourself, but that means that they can show you these incredible vistas in a kind of dingy cyberpunk world, but it still looks really cool. And yeah, it was just fun kind of fighting through. I think the gameplay was pretty samey as you go on, but the guns are really what make up the variety in it.
Yeah, I want to ask you, like, because I played the Ascent. I didn't finish it. Do the environments change at all? or are you just in that city?
So I think Ryan would know better because it sounds like Keith probably got a little further than I did.
Yeah. So they do change. Yes, absolutely. It's interesting. You actually don't start in the city. You start in very much like the refuse of the city, like the bottom tier where all the machinery is that runs this cyberpunk world. And then you work your way up to the city. And there are levels. It gets cleaner as you go up, which I really appreciate. I'd argue that it starts as like the slums, like the lowest of the low, right? You're basically living in garbage heap at the bottom. The second tier is more of like the slums. And then the third tier is like where you can imagine the middle class live. And very much at the end of the game, you get to the fourth tier, which is like white rim, like everything is white siding, and it's like utopian. There's actual plants and things like that. So yes, it does. The environments do change. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely when I want to finish, I think that's a game that will be on my list to do. But yeah, it seems like the way to play it is co-op if you really want that like most fun experience. Seems like a really good kind of podcast game, or just you don't really have to think.
Right.
I don't even know if I knew that was co-op until now.
Yeah, I'd be down. Hey man, I'd jump in with you.
Yeah.
Just saying. Absolutely.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I should totally go back to. I stopped playing that game for reasons that I won't get into, but I definitely want to come back to it eventually.
They fixed the bugs, which I know a lot of people had problems with.
Okay, that's what I was gonna.
Yeah, I know you don't want to get into it, but beyond that, I mean, I will say like there were bug fixes. You still run into them here and there, but they did fix.
Because that game was getting to a point where I literally couldn't do missions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
So
that is one negative thing that I want to bring up is the story, at least from what I saw, was kind of throwaway. I didn't really care about what any of these people were saying or what I was doing. There was just like proper noun after proper noun that just, I don't care. I just want to shoot things.
It very is its own world. I mean, it is steeped in whatever world that it's trying to create.
Yeah, which is cool. It sounds so. I am a gameplay over story kind of person for sure. Story is just gravy. Which I think kind of is in opposition to you, Keith. It sounds like you are much about the story. You like good gameplay, obviously, but
it really kind of depends.
Okay,
it depends how good the story is. If the story is very just average, I guess, then if there's nothing there to keep me playing, like if the gameplay is bad and the story isn't grabbing me enough, I'm out. You know, and vice versa. If the gameplay is just whatever, but the story's bad, I'm not gonna go for it.
Sure.
You know, you're not gonna catch me. So
I feel like I have reached balance in all aspects of my life, and I just like video games. And if it's good, it's good. You know when it's good, right?
Yeah.
Right. So speaking of good, what's your 8th best there, Keith?
Oh, Chicory.
Oh yeah,
A Colorful Tale.
The one where you drew penises everywhere.
I did, and I'll tell you why in a second.
Sorry if I was calling you out, but you said it on your podcast, so I figured it was fair game.
I have to talk about this game without trying to cry. So this is like one of those games where every time I was looking at it on the list, I'm like, I should put this higher because of what this game is, because of how this game connected with me.
Yeah.
So essentially, the entire story of Chicory is wrapped up in becoming the new wielder, this paintbrush wielder of this place called Picnic Province. It's the last wielder of this world. Chicory basically has locked herself up and kind of gone into like a deep depression and has this creative block. And so the main character that you play as, Pizza, is Chicory's janitor, who basically picks up where Chicory left off. But ever since Chicory decided to stop coloring the world, with the paintbrush that you now wield, Picnic Province has lost all of its color. Everything's just black and white. So essentially it's Pizza's job, your job, to color the world back in. And so as far as the gameplay goes, It's another top-down Zelda 2D kind of Zelda game. Includes dungeons and puzzles.
I think
It's
we're
a
onto
pretty
something here.
I know
your
there's a
taste.
theme that there
Yeah.
actually is kind of a theme with all of these games.
Yeah.
It's got a pretty big overworld map. It's not as linear as Eastward. I'll keep it at that. And as you travel around, you paint everything. It's a digital coloring book. You are always coloring. Before you even start the game, you can just sit at the title screen if you want to and just color the title screen. It's a lot of the aspects of this game is just sit down and chill out. But
we got a lot of those games this year. It feels like very Zen style.
That's true.
I think we live in a time that we kind of need those kind of games also.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so each part of the map that you go to, they only give you maybe like 4 colors per area to work with, and they're always different depending on the area that you're in. So depending on how you color those areas with those colors, each area is going to have its own distinct look, like it would in any other game.
Right.
So besides for the whole chill aspect of the game of just kind of being in that Zen mode, coloring whatever you want, for me, where the game connected with me, which I didn't expect it to, is in its story and its narrative with chicory and pizza. It's just name. I know it's funny. Yeah. The writing for this game is on the level of Eastward. Like every character and NPC has their own thing going on. The game does a lot with the little that it offers you. And just the themes that the game tackles about like subjectiveness when it comes to art, creating art, the anxiety that comes with creating art. Pizza goes through their life trying to basically live up to the expectations of being Chicory's successor. Deals with creative burnout, imposter syndrome, stuff like that.
Boy, this sounds like similar themes to the Artful Escape, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. I think this does better than the Artful Escape, if I'm going to be honest. Some the interactions that you have with the end, because you don't really have any interactions with anybody in the Artful Escape except for like 2 people.
Except for Carl Weathers and Lena Headey.
Yeah, 2 people.
Yeah. So Jason Schwartzman, Carl Weathers, and Lena Headey did voices for this. It's got some talent.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Annapurna.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They just get famous actors in their games and ride on their coattails. A little shade at Annapurna there. But so like, you interact with all these NPCs around the world, and some of them will positively react to what you've done. As far as the artwork goes, maybe they might like the penises that you drew, while others will have words about what you did. They will judge you harshly and they will criticize you. And, this all culminates in pizza. And like, I found me, like, as a player, like going through this world, creating this art, and I'm like second guessing everything that I'm doing. And it kind of becomes overwhelming. And then I started thinking about all the stuff that I do, in real life, like podcasting, photography, design, graphic design, and stuff like that just really resonates with me. And I think there's like some really good instances where this game has some downtime where you're able to just call your parents and they just kind of talk you down a little bit and give you some encouragement. It's also just a clever way to kind of hide the hint system, because sometimes it is easy to get lost in this game. And when the penises come in, is that this damn raccoon just criticized like how I colored their house because they're like, oh, can you color it just like Chicory? And it's like, well, you have no basis for that. You don't know what Chicory did. Yeah, because the entire world has been reset. So you sit there and you color the house, and the raccoon is like, yeah, I mean, I guess this is okay. And then I just got mad and drew penises all over their house. So yeah, it kind of like this game like actively hurts your feelings sometimes if you are coming, I guess, from that creative background. If you're not coming from that creative background, then maybe it'll be different. It's just, this game really resonated with me, and the gameplay is interesting. Like, it does so much cool stuff with the paintbrush and the paints and the puzzles that I really haven't seen another game do. Maybe Splatoon has some of the same kind of physics and stuff that this game goes for, but and then you've got, of course, you just got regular Zelda stuff, abilities. You have costumes that you can unlock. You can even create your own costumes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, man, it is a game that will give you feels, for sure.
Yeah, I think it would work for us, being that we put out the podcast. I mean, there's so much I don't think people realize sometimes, and maybe if you don't suffer from anxiety, you don't realize how much anxiety goes with everything. Every social media post you put out there, every single thing, it's like, oh man, will people hate this? Like, well, does it look ugly? Like, you never know, right? Every episode that we produce, I'm like, wonder if we'll lose listeners. Like, not that it matters, but like, it's part of creating anything and putting it out there. It's up to people to judge you, and that's a tricky thing to handle.
If nobody says anything at all, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Right. No, it's good, man. I might have to check this game out, definitely, when it comes to Game Pass, of course, because it will.
Well, it's coming to Switch pretty soon.
It just got announced for the Switch. Yep.
It seems like a good platform for it.
I will say, if you have a PC, probably play it on the PC, because
the mouse.
Yes, the mouse seems like the better option. I found controlling it. I got it for the PS5, so controlling it with the controller is a little bit slow.
Get a little more detail with the penises and
exactly, because you want to get those fine hairs every once in a while.
Of course. So moving right along. Sounds great. No, I'm just kidding. So my number 8 is a game people have probably heard me talk about before. It's The Forgotten City. This should not be the forgotten game, because if you've played Skyrim, the gameplay in this is like Skyrim, but that is doing such a disservice to this game. I went in not really knowing.
That's just like the engine, basically.
Well, but it's not. It's like a beautiful Skyrim.
Sure, that doesn't make me want to play this.
But you should. But you really should, because it's more about the dialogue. It's more about the choice. It's more about the mystery, and the mechanic of the time loop is used so well in this.
How many cheese wheels can I stack?
If there aren't, maybe there are cheese wheels. I didn't go seeking out cheese wheels. Or sweetbread.
Sorry.
Is that what it's called, right? Sweetbread?
Sweet rolls.
Sweet rolls. Thank you very much. Jeez, man, I'm failing on the name part. Doki Doki Panic, right? So no, it's I found myself approaching this, and I was like, okay, like it's humorous. Immediately the dialogue gets you, because it's humorous and it's interesting, and it gets right into the story. And I found myself just starting out with a vague idea of what you're supposed to do or what you're supposed to uncover, and more presents itself. And it does such a good job of unveiling these little hints or clues, or what you're supposed to do next, or these little enlightening moments throughout the entire story. And when you think like, oh my god, you get the big picture, something bigger happens. And it's so cool. And they did such a good job with the time loop, because it never becomes tedious. Like if you figure something out, like how to save somebody or how to get rid of somebody during a loop, there's a man that greets you every time you restart the loop. And you could just tell this guy, hey, do these things. So you never have to go back and repeat actions, which like if you're looping anything, it can, it's definitely good. It could become very tedious. But there's literally a guy there who just like, every time you see him, you're like, hey, like, I know to do these things, you go do them. And he's like, oh yeah, man, like I'll take care of that for you. And you really get a sense of knowing these people in the town that you're in, it's, there's only, takes place in ancient Rome, but there's more to it than that. You're a modern day person who travels back to ancient Rome, and you really get a sense for each character. They are all very much unique. Everything they do and say fits within their character. And you don't really figure all that out till the end with some of them, but it's just so good. It's so rewarding for every little bit of effort you put into it, and it's so extremely well written. I found myself just devouring this game until I ultimately solved the mystery and beat the game. There are 4 different endings. I went through them all, because it's not that long to play, and once you reach a certain point, you could easily just like, oh, okay, I'm going to go back and get the next ending. And maybe for the final good ending, it'll take you maybe an hour longer than the rest of them, but it's not tedious to play at that point either. This is on Game Pass again, but if you have access
Game of the year.
Yeah, exactly, it's on the Game of the Year Game Pass. But if you have access to this, like, go play it. Please give it a shot at least.
That actually makes me want to play it more, that you can kind of skip everything, because 12 minutes, which did not make my list, just doing these things over and over again is so irritating.
Yeah.
So that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
2021, year of the time loop as well.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, that is the trend.
Yeah.
Just when you thought battle royales were still popular, it's time loops.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, getting into my number 8, then. It Takes Two. I've put a good amount of time into this one now.
Oh, good. Yeah, you were ahead of me.
Yeah.
Checked,
The real
Awards,
game of the year.
That's right.
The one true game of
Yeah.
the year.
So yeah, playing through this one with my wife, and we're loving it. I think that, so the game itself is basically about a couple divorcing, and the kid that is shared between them is having a hard time with it.
Sounds great.
Yeah, exactly. Just make sure you're in a good place with your significant other before playing this.
Yeah, right.
Because there's a lot. Yeah, there's some nagging between the 2 characters, and it's something that you can understand. And
are those like those cutesy moments where you and your wife look at each other and you're like, remember when we did that?
Yes, that happens all the time, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the wrapping of this game. The gameplay itself it's why I'm there. I like
Cool.
these co-op experiences, but it's basically, each of you are just playing through, you're basically shrunken dolls in a, I don't know, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of environment, and you're going through different areas of this house. But you have to solve puzzles together. Every single puzzle that takes place, you each have to do a task to get through it, be it one person opening a door and then the other person kind of holding it open on the other side, in a variety of ways. One of the cool things that is kind of in the beginning of the game, one of you gets a bunch of nails and the other gets a hammerhead, and there's a bunch of puzzles to solve using exactly that, like different ways that you can use hammer or nail. There are a lot of different like mini games that happen, and those are just kind of side things that you can choose to do or not, and they're just competitions. There's like a whack-a-mole where one of you is popping up trying not to get hit, the other is trying to hit the other with a hammer. So it's just like a lot of variety, a lot of fun things to do and to like figure out on the fly. As you're going through, there's different boss battles. There's like a vacuum that you have to destroy together.
It was brutal, right?
It is brutal what happens there.
Yeah, definitely.
And even the characters like, do you think this is a little too much?
Exactly.
So yeah, if you're intrigued by that, it's a little much. But yeah, I haven't played through all of it, but I can see enough of this that I know I love this gameplay. And the story, whatever happens with that, I couldn't really care less, but it seems like they've got kind of a moral to the story. And I happen to think that the parents are going to stay together kind of thing. There's going to be a happy ending. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But yeah, I think the gameplay is really what gets you there. It's not punishing at all. Like I never felt like there was a time where we were just like, okay, well, we can't do this part. Like, we're not able to cooperate enough to get through this. It's very forgiving. If someone falls off like the ledge, they're instantly back up there. There's no like big fail state unless both of you completely die. So I think there's enough forgiveness where the game wants you to keep going, and it's not about like Overcooked where you're just like,
Yeah,
we
oh
are
God.
ending everything.
Yeah,
Like we
yeah.
can't.
I said order up.
Yeah, right. I said cut the damn tomato.
So it's not that at all, which is
Yeah.
refreshing for this kind of game.
So do they do, because I only played a limited amount, do they manage to keep the puzzles fresh?
I would say so. I mean, there's definitely like sequences where like, okay, we've done this three
Right,
times
right.
in a row, but then it does move on to the next thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. As long as it doesn't become tedious in that, like, oh, here's this one again,
Right. I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Good pick.
Have you guys played Florence?
No.
No.
I've heard of it.
No. Oh. Okay. Never mind. Good talk.
Okay, cool. But we should, I'm guessing, right?
Actually, you should. It's a
Yeah.
mobile game. It might be 99 cents at this point.
Mhm.
It came out 2018, I believe.
Okay.
I was just asking. It's essentially a game about this couple who are going through. It basically follows from the point they meet to the point where they break up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was dating this girl at some point. Believe it or not, I was dating a girl, and
I believe it.
and she wasn't really into games that much. Okay, yeah, there it is.
$2.99.
Oh, $2.99. Oh,
Too
that's
much.
actually that's actually not that bad.
Okay.
It's a very good game. So yeah, she was not really a gamer, and I played Florence, and she was the girl that I was dating, she was a romance author, and she wrote very depressing novels. And so I was like, well, Florence is going to be like right up her book. It's a very easy game to play.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just like, we had just started dating. I think maybe we were like 5 months into the relationship or something. And I was like, yeah, you should check out Florence. And so she plays Florence, and it was like one of those games where she was like, and I feel like It Takes Two reminds me of what you were just saying, Brian, about when she like, I think she like texted me or something, and she was like, so what's going on? What are you trying to say right now?
Are you trying
Blah,
to
blah,
tell me
blah.
something?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm like, no, I just want you to
Yeah.
play this
Oh man.
freaking good, amazing game. Like, I didn't mean anything by it. Like, it's a
Right.
really good, it's a very sad game. I was like, I thought it would be like right up your alley, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
one of those things where I was like, whoops, that was a mistake.
Right. I'm downloading it now.
The relationship killer.
Yeah. Well,
So I wanted to add one thing. This developer, and I should have looked it up, but it's one of the EA originals basically, and I've played all their other games. What is it? Tales, Brothers, Tales.
yeah.
Oh, there's a two
Tale of Two Sons.
Tale of
Yeah.
Two.
That's right.
That's
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. I really
So
enjoyed that.
There's
yeah.
that, and then A Way Out.
Yeah.
We played a little bit of A Way Out. That game did not grab us. That was less about it. That was, again, it was all story for most of it, and there were like little things that you did, but it wasn't gameplay related so much.
Mhm.
This is all
Hazelight.
about the gameplay.
Hazelight,
Yes,
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
developer.
Yeah.
So this is absolutely their best outing. I like it way more than Brothers, but Brothers is again a different game.
Right. Brothers also isn't a co-op game.
That's right. It's
Yeah.
not.
Brothers is one person playing as two people.
That's true. Yes.
I do want to play A Way Out though. I really like that. Seems like more of the story that I'd be into.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's like no gameplay in that. It's
Oh.
very minimal.
Bummer.
So
Bummer.
yeah.
All right. So
That-
I think we're on 7.
7.
Mhm.
Yeah,
7.
that's
It's a
what I
good
got pulled
movie.
up here. It very, yeah, except for the whole part with Kevin Spacey, but
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well,
Kevin Spacey sucks. Like,
so my number 7 was another game that actually almost didn't make the list because I didn't feel strong enough about having a 4-hour long game that's part of a bigger game. that's Bowser's Fury.
Oh, cool.
Very
Very
good.
good.
Which is connected with the port of Super Mario 3D World.
Yeah.
But I mean, man, Bowser's Fury is so much fun.
Cool.
It's if you guys don't know about it, it's essentially just a small open world Mario game. The first open world Mario game, basically, where
Mhm.
everything is cat themed. I love cats. I'm that crazy. I have one cat. I have more than one, but I am a crazy cat guy.
That's
So
cool.
I think everyone except for Bowser and Bowser Jr. have cat ears.
Why they gotta be all Bowser about it, you know? Like, just put on the cat ears, guys.
Right. Yeah, he's doesn't he's not confident enough.
Yeah,
As for Mario, I mean, it's a Mario. I mean, he feels incredibly good to control. And even though he doesn't have Cappy in this game, his moveset can still cover like a good amount of ground. And because this is kind of like an offshoot of 3D World, all of the power-ups from 3D World are in the game. And you even have kind of like a bank where you can put them in, which is like, it's like reminiscent of Super Mario Brothers 3 or Super Mario World, where you can just at any given time just call upon a power-up, provided that you have it.
Right. Like in your little backup.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because I'm all about the bad with the good with the bad here. The main gimmick for me behind the game, I'm not really a fan of. So essentially, like every 3 to 5 minutes, this giant kaiju Bowser will show up, and like initially you have no way of fighting him, so you just kind of have to run around, avoid him stomping on you and all of his fireballs and stuff until he either goes away or until you collect a shine. And when you do collect enough shines, you'll unlock a power-up called the Giga Bell, which transforms Mario into a cat kaiju.
Of course.
And that's when you can finally fight Bowser. But like the fights are just kind of bland.
Yeah.
You basically are just waiting for Bowser to flip onto his back so you can stomp on him every single time.
Well, that's disappointing. Two giant kaiju fighting each other, and like that's what.
And it's like you don't even have to be, because if Mario gets hit in his Giga Cat form, he just goes back to regular Super Mario. So like he doesn't shrink down or anything like that, and you could still carry the fight on as if it was normal, you know.
Right.
So there's really not a lot of stakes there. But I mean, everything else I really freaking love, like the different islands you can unlock, all the little creative secrets and hidden areas, how easy it is to traverse the world. There's this little I don't remember what this little dragon guy is called, this little swimming dragon guy, but every time you fall into the lake, he just pops up no matter where you are. He's just like, hey buddy. He's like, you need a ride? It's like, yeah, of course, thanks.
It's that huge like Lapras looking.
Oh, I know what you're talking.
Yeah,
it's in Mario 3D World. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So and it's like even in the spaces that you think there's gonna be nothing to do, there's something going on there. It's all intents and purposes, it's a Mario game. It's very, I can't wait to see if they carry on the same trend with the next Mario game.
That would be cool if they expanded it into, I mean, because this is a shorter experience. It's certainly a big game, but what is it, like 4 hours long or so?
Yeah, it's very quick. There's something about it that I couldn't help but think that this might have been like Odyssey DLC at some point.
Totally.
In some form or another, this might have just been reworked as this.
They needed to give us a reason to buy 3D World again, for those of us who did.
It's built on the engine of an older game. I don't know. Is it the 3D World engine that they used to build this as well? It's not built on the Odyssey engine.
I don't know. I mean,
that's a good question.
Looks amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look
I
this
think
up
it
now.
is 3D World mechanics.
Yeah.
Because like Keith said, there's no Cappy, so that mechanic is not there.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember now. I played a decent chunk
does
of it.
use 3D World's controls engine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. They wouldn't want to switch it on you mid-game. So
Right.
Yeah, I had played the heck out of 3D World, so I didn't pick this one up, but I like borrowed it from a friend and really liked Bowser's Fury. But I suffered the same thing where it was like, it's too frequent that you're having to deal with Kaiju Bowser.
Yeah.
So.
I played through it a couple times actually, and I found that until maybe I was like 30 shines in, I just ignored him the entire time.
Yeah.
I didn't even transform. Like, you can just ignore him if you know where all the shines are.
I see.
I think it's disappointing that Nintendo has to be Nintendo sometimes, because I would have bought Bowser's Fury for a $20 game. I wouldn't spend 60 on 3D World and Bowser's Fury. Like, in no world will I do that. I won't even spend 40 on the two of them, but I will 100% spend 20 on Bowser's Fury.
I did not have a Wii U like most people. So it was kind of a bonus for me to get 3D
that is a
World.
great deal. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had a pretty good time with 3D World.
Yeah, no, it's a great game. It is a great game, 100%. I love that game, but I
get what you're saying, though. No, I completely understand.
Yeah.
I would be on the same vibe with you also on that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, good pick though, for sure.
Yeah, great pick. I completely forgot that one. That popped up on my Nintendo most played games.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was what little I did play
at the end of it. Yeah. So moving on to my number 7. It's a 20-year-old game. It's Resident Evil 4 VR. So I wouldn't have included this on my list if it were just like Resident Evil 4, but because the change is so significant.
Oh yeah, no, this qualifies.
It totally has to be a new game. Yeah, I absolutely love this game. I haven't made it through the entire campaign yet. That's on me. But I've enjoyed every single moment of replaying Resident Evil 4 in virtual reality. It's mind-blowing to be in Leon's shoes in that game and see some of the environments and go through that gameplay again. And you do feel like a total badass. And it's just it's so well done. I said on an earlier episode, and I'm not being sarcastic, there was a moment where like I got a tear in my eye because I've loved the Resident Evil games since the first one. I've been playing them since the first one. And you know, I remember Resident Evil 4 being such a huge part of my life at the time. And I remember just really diving into it and never would have imagined being able to experience that world firsthand like VR allows you to. It's one of those that I think is the must-play VR game from 2021. If you have a Quest 2, I know there have been bigger games that came out on PC VR, but man, I don't know what to say. If you like action and you like Resident Evil and you like Resident Evil 4 and you have a means to play this, you probably already played it, right? Like you probably already bought it and played it. But if you haven't, like, do it. I think this is honestly the first Oculus Quest system seller. I think this is the first game I could say to people like, this is the game why you should get the Oculus Quest is because of Resident Evil 4 VR. There's enough there to be supplementary to keep you interested in the platform, but like this is the game, the must-buy game for the console.
I just want to play a Resident Evil game in any Resident Evil game in VR, whether it be 7, 4. Is 8 in VR? I don't know if it is.
No, but 7 was. But this one, like, it's just, it doesn't really hit you till you get to moments where there's like the big ogre thing that you fight, right? What's his name?
El Gigante.
El Gigante, El Gigante, or Del Lago. And then
or Ashley.
Right. Well, she's so small in this game, and she has a really big head, which is interesting. But it is crazy too when you get those co-op characters like Luis or Ashley, and they're standing next to you, or like even the merchant, and he's standing right there. They're standing right there, and you're like, it's like right in front of me. You're right here. This is crazy. Like I know you from the game I've
played the crap out
of. Yeah.
When you go up to the merchant and he, opens up his robe, do you just like grab and select stuff from his jacket?
No, it'd be really cool if you did.
No?
He kind of like it's like a menu based system. Yeah,
he doesn't like
really,
being
really
touched.
cool.
That I understand.
But they have it in.
He'll hand the items to you.
Right. They incorporate things in really cool ways though. When you do like augment a gun, right? Like make it a little better, add something to it, extend the clip, whatever. There's a little like table that you put it on, and it goes in a little holder, and so they do a good job of.
Is
making those things dynamic.
Is the inventory system different? Because
No,
I loved
it's
the inventory system in that
the
game.
same. Yeah, it's great. It's the same, and you manipulate it by like turning your hand and stuff and putting.
You can make
things
an
on there.
entire game out of the inventory system of RE4 alone, and I would buy it.
Yeah, it's
just give me stuff to arrange.
It's cooler. It's just as cool in VR.
How many times did you shoot the merchant?
I didn't. I never.
You didn't?
No, that's my boy, dude.
That's like your only friend in that entire game.
Oh no, I shot him immediately.
But I did like
you're a monster.
I did go up to the lake and like shoot the lake enough times to where Del Lago jumps out at you, and that was horrifying. I mean, just seriously, because you have this gaping maw that is literally you're seeing as though it's 5 feet wide and 10 feet tall. You know,
that would be a cruel joke to play on someone if they didn't know that he was going to
fishing
come out.
simulator.
Well, the craziest thing is
I got this fishing game I got.
Yeah. Oh god, I knew it was going to happen, but they do play with it where it comes out in fewer shots. So usually it's like 10 that you shoot into the lake, and then it happens on like the third one. It jumped out at me, so I really wasn't expecting it when it happened. Right. Man, and it hits you when it gets to be nighttime and there's a storm and it's lightning and the things start popping out of their heads. Yeah, and it's just like those moments that were just so visually stunning for the GameCube era. It's just so much more seeing it in VR. Like it's just like it blows your mind. I don't say that with an ounce of irony. Like it literally blows your mind.
I would turn the game off once you're in that cold storage area. That's when the game ends for me, because I wouldn't be able to handle the what are those monsters
the regenerators
called? Yeah, the regenerator. I wouldn't be able to handle that.
Yeah,
that's when I'm done. I'm like,
I haven't made it to that point yet. But the claw, like the pseudo Wolverine guys, are pretty creepy too.
Yeah.
But that's my number 7.
I thought that would be a little higher for you, to be honest.
I will tell you, it's tough going from here, man. I played a lot of games in 2021.
Now I'm interested what's beyond this, to be honest. Like,
you better be ready.
Oh, okay. I'm ready. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of ready, let's get to my number 7, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy. So I love this game. I feel like the caveat of all of these.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, so that's the thing. I didn't beat a lot of games, which is, I wouldn't have been able to play anything on my list if I only stuck to ones that I beat and played through the entirety of. But Guardians immediately hit me as a game that I really enjoyed. I like the gameplay of this game. It is very simple, but it really reminded me of those Mass Effect moments where you're just like commanding your different partners to do different things. And I was just watching their cooldowns and kind of engaging them when it was appropriate. But the absolute best thing about this game is the nonstop dialogue, and it's infinitely funny. I never got bored of what these characters were saying to each other. It just felt like a group of characters that you want to kind of hang out with just to hear what they're saying. So yeah, I think gameplay, not its strongest point, but still something that I really did enjoy. And I'm really interested to see where the story goes. I mean, this one, I think it was like best story on the Game Awards. Mm-hmm. People really, really do enjoy it. And I think the characters have some nuances that, we saw in the movies. I would say those movies are really delightful, pieces of cinema. And I think we're getting pretty much that. These are fully fleshed out characters that we are familiar with, but they are their own takes. And it's interesting to see where they're going with that.
Yeah.
I'm not ignoring you. I'm just looking up the nominees for best story.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the going games
it's okay
were.
If you're ignoring him. He's just the president.
That's right. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think the Game Awards are any end all be all to what should be on there.
But I agree. I think this is a deserving game of that award.
Sure,
they got this right, in my opinion. I played a lot of games this year, and I think they got this one right.
Oh man,
story.
That's wild. What do we got?
So the other nominees were Game of the Year winner, It Takes Two.
Yeah, cool. Divorce. The story
Psychonauts. Well, it sounds like that entire game hinges on its story.
Which game?
It Takes Two.
I mean, the premise of it hinges on the story, but not necessarily
And the gameplay. Well, anyway. And the other one's Psychonauts 2. Life is Strange, True Colors. And then Deathloop, which I really don't. I haven't heard anybody talk about Deathloop, to be honest.
Yeah. You won't hear us talk about it.
Nope. Yeah, and the Guardians.
Yeah. Well, that's your number 7, right, Brian?
Yeah. I think that's about it for me on that one.
Well, then I say we go ahead and we head into our number 6s and do a quick wrap up, and then we'll be on our way.
Sounds
Let's
good.
do it.
All right. So my number 6 is a game that I missed out initially when it was released, mainly because I absolutely hated the movie, and I'm going to be looking at you, Ryan, for your reaction, because I'm sure it's coming. My number 6 for the game, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Okay.
No, wait, do you hate the movie?
I hate that movie.
Well, do you hate the comic book?
I'm not a comic book guy.
Wow. Okay.
Not a comic book guy.
Yeah, I kind of gathered as much.
But obviously the two are completely different.
Scott Pilgrim movie does not hold up today.
I watched it like a few months ago, and I still think it's a great movie.
I tried to watch it a few months ago.
So cringy. Everything. It was cringy in 2009 or 2010 when it came out.
It's definitely supposed to be cringy, though.
It's too much.
I don't know. I hate things that are supposed to like represent our culture, and then they just kind of make it like, oh, look at these freaking nerds.
Right.
I don't know. Is it supposed to represent gaming culture, though? I don't think so. I think Scott Pilgrim is very obviously like a terrible.
There's references.
Game. Yeah, there's
like
references.
Zelda stuff.
Yeah,
right, there are references 100% and like cool video game references in my opinion, but I don't think Scott Pilgrim is supposed to represent like a typical gamer. Like I would make that argument, but anyway, I digress. Go right ahead, Keith.
Well, you know what does represent gaming culture is the video game.
Yeah.
Obviously that's the same story, but I think it translates much better to a video game. I don't know who doesn't know about this game. It's probably one of the most popular video games there is. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up. It's got some, RPG elements thrown in, like you can level up your character, learn new move sets, learn different moves depending on what character you choose. You can collect a few weapons and upgrade those along the way. It's just because it's on my list because it got re-released, obviously. And it's just, it's funny how this game pays homage to like those early 1990s beat 'em ups, like Final Fight and stuff like that. And having it be re-released now, 11 years later, it has essentially become a retro game itself.
That's
you
funny.
know?
Yeah, it's true.
So and it's great because like it did. Scott Pilgrim versus the World is kind of important because it did usher in a wave of those retro inspired games that we are still seeing today. Stuff like Shovel Knight, The Messenger, Cyber Shadow, Celeste, stuff like that. And I think we're better for it. I mean, a lot of these games are really, really amazing. Make you think about, some of those better retro games, even want to go seek them out and play them. And then you realize that, the Main Quest podcast doesn't play as well as you might have thought it did back then. But obviously we benefit a lot from the technology that we have today. So we're fortunate enough to kind of more or less relive those memories while making new ones at the same time, if that makes any sense. I don't really know what else to say about this game. It's just it's a really rewarding beat 'em up. It's one of the best beat 'em ups. And the soundtrack, I mean, I guess I mentioned the soundtrack, right? The soundtrack is it's awesome. It's incredible. So glad I didn't skip out on this game this time around.
Cool. Yeah, I should probably play it. I'd probably really like it.
Have you not played it?
I've not played it. No.
Oh, if you get it for the Switch, I'll play it with you.
Oh, very cool. It's online co-op. Let's go. I could feel my P bar getting lower already, right? Because wasn't that a thing from Scott Pilgrim where he goes P and the P bar goes? All right. Anyway, so yeah, this is my number 6. Probably catch a lot of flack for this from my co-host here, but my number 6 is Halo Infinite.
You're talking about the low number on it?
Yeah.
Like I should have expected a higher.
I would think you would.
Okay.
Is this the whole package, or is this
this is
the campaign?
This is everything.
Or...
This is everything.
Just
yeah.
Halo
package.
Infinite.
The whole package. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I know a lot of people like reviewed them separately, but no, it's
I'm just glad it's on your list. I think
100% it's on my list.
Okay.
I do love this game. I love every single
It makes you think it's not on my list.
It could be.
It could be.
Don't check my gamer profile.
Yeah. Or listen to your podcast. No, I think you actually told me about your experience with Halo Infinite, so never mind. I don't know if you've talked about it on your podcast.
I was gonna say I don't get time to talk about the games I'm playing anymore.
That's true. But no, look, I think 343 had an impossible task and they accomplished it. The gameplay in this is incredible. It's some of the most pure fun I've had playing a game all year. But I will say the story I found lacking. It fell into, I'm glad you mentioned it earlier in this episode, Keith, where you can get an open world game and it can be boring at times because it's the same thing. The gameplay did a huge service because it's just fun to move around the world.
Grappling hook is necessary.
It's a blast. It's a blast. And they do so much with mobility.
It's crazy that it took them this long to put a grappling hook in their game.
I know. But it's great. It's great that they did. However, it's also like, oh, here I am going to this outpost, defeating enemies. And it's like this copy and paste, it could be Far Cry. It could be Assassin's Creed. It could be all these other open world games because you're just doing the same actions, right?
But I think the main difference for like Far Cry and Halo is Far Cry is fun like the first 2 times you take on an outpost.
Right.
Halo is always fun.
I would say not always. That's
really?
my take.
Okay.
That's my take.
Right.
And that's because it did get a little stale. Like I played through the story. I did free some outposts and some troops and things like that. And I did some bases and like I did pretty much 3 of each things, right? You could go to different types of camps and do different actions, but you're basically taking the world back from the banished. And I did enough of them that I hit my limit. I don't know if I want to keep doing it.
Sure.
I will definitely come back to this game if there is an expansion that comes out. I enjoyed it a lot. I feel like they did a great job with the story as well. As someone who isn't the biggest fan of Halo games or their stories, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. It kind of, at the first, you're a little disoriented when it comes to that sort of thing, but
because
they
glaze over things that happened in between games that they didn't bother to talk about.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like that's the thing people are arguing about who have been playing Halo games, that they don't do anything with the story really.
But you get the important beats, like the characters that matter, why they matter, and the weight of that in as it pertains to this story they're telling. So you get the important parts.
I'm also speaking as somebody who hasn't touched a Halo game ever. So
I'm not like being an apologist.
So
I'm just saying. I'm saying like I haven't played since Halo 2, so I'm very much in the same boat. And like I didn't feel like I was missing anything that like would have made a world of a difference for my enjoyment.
Stories in Halo have been way better than this. That I'll grant you.
Yeah, and I will also say they had one character in particular that I just didn't know what he was, what he wanted. He was wishy-washy. He went from one moment hating Master Chief to one moment they're best friends. And the next, like, he wasn't really there. There was a point, it's a pilot. There's a point where like he talks to you over the comms and I hadn't interacted with him for like hours. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a guy who's here. Like I forgot about that guy. And it just didn't, I don't know if he had to be there or they should have done more with him.
Sure.
And even there are some silly moments like between the villain and you, and it's just like, we get it, like, can we just like move forward with this story? It's not a long campaign, but there were points in it where I'm like, all right, like I should be getting somewhere now. And have you beaten it?
I'm like,
I'm not going to spoil
80% of the way through.
I'm not going to spoil anything, but you go into this last facility to reach the last, like, culmination of the game, and that last facility takes a long time.
I might be in it now, where there's like things set up for you to go through. Or is that something else?
No, like I will say you're there, but it takes a long time.
All right, all right, I gotcha.
But it's a very enjoyable game. I love it. I definitely look forward to any DLC they make for it, and I'm still playing the multiplayer here and there as well.
I was gonna ask, how's your multiplayer?
I love it.
Are you?
I think it's great. Yeah, I'm actually like pretty good now. I can go in and be competent and have fun, and I don't feel like you're ever playing against a bunch of sweaties who just like try hard and take you out, and you don't really get a chance. There's no spawn camping or things like that some online games run into problems with. It's a great experience. It's must play. If you have Game Pass, like, play this game. Don't know what to say about it. As I was completing all these checkpoints and getting all these little like trophies, right? It was like 3%, 5% have gotten this trophy. And I don't know if that's skewed because of the multiplayer numbers, which I think it might be accounting for all players when it gives you like, 3% of people have gotten this trophy. I'm like, wait a minute, like only 3% of people have completed the first mission of the story. Like, how is that possible?
I ran into the same thing. Yeah, there's probably people out there just playing the multiplayer,
right?
Like, especially on Steam, being free to play. They're not touching this campaign unless they actually buy the game. So who knows if it's roping all of them in there.
I would say play it if you have the chance to. Obviously, it's a phenomenal game.
I would like to say that right now Game Pass is $1. So
for 3 months, right?
I mean, I don't know what you're doing. If you have access to it, I don't know what you're doing right now.
Everyone has access as long as they have a phone and are willing to play through the cloud. Like,
I don't know if you want to play Halo on like an 8-inch screen, but
it works. I am having fun playing the campaign, like doing an outpost on my phone.
But dude,
it's actually kind of cool.
8-inch screen versus 75-inch.
This is true.
Well, I don't have a 75-inch TV, but okay.
Well, I'm a little rich kid over here. So.
Look at that. Oh man, I'm jealous. But I love this game. I know it. I thought you would have expected it to be higher on my list. I'm glad you're not too shocked by that.
I mean,
I'm surprised it's higher than RE4.
No, that's good.
Played RE4. Like, yeah. I mean, RE4, like, for as much as I loved it,
that's the greatest game of all time, and now it
still kind of looks old. It still kind of looks old when you're playing.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
So I mean, I am disappointed. I want you to love the multiplayer forever, because I think I will. So that we'll go from there.
I'm still in. We'll play. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, good. All right. Let's get to my number 6 then. So this is a game that Keith mentioned, and I think I had a little more fun, it sounds like, with new Pokemon Snap.
Yeah.
So Keith, did you say you played the original Pokemon Snap?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you like that game?
Yeah.
Okay. So I also did. And I think this is better just because it's obviously modernized. And I think this does more with what I wanted the original Pokemon Snap to do. I feel like this one has way more Pokemon in it. I really like the environments that are going on. I think the puzzles are pretty cool. There's a lot of instances where you get hints about like, oh, I should throw a Pokeball here and do this and that, and it's usually rewarding. I will say that once you do a level like 20 times, you are done with that level. And I didn't jump into, I think they added a couple levels like
recently. They had free DLC.
Oh, cool.
Right. Yeah. So that's cool. But yeah, this, Pokemon is one of those franchises that I have always loved, and taking pictures of them is just a ton of fun. I will say the way that they score the photos doesn't always make sense.
It's still it's as broken as the first game.
Right. So, yes, we just want the Pokemon as big as possible. Like, all right, well, I want to do some artistic things with this shot.
Have you seen this beautiful shot of my boy Bidoof? What are you talking about?
Look how perfectly framed this is.
Oh my God. Look at his badonkadonk.
But yeah, this
the most powerful Pokemon of them all, Bidoof.
Really seriously.
He's out there. But yeah, just seeing Pokemon in a 3D environment, which I hope one day we get to this, at least this level with the graphics for like a mainline Pokemon game. But yeah, this game is as fun as the first game, if not more fun in my eyes.
I think now that you said it, you nailed it on the head for me. Why I couldn't really put it on my list, at least, is that revisiting the levels, which you do that in the first game.
Sure.
But because the game is obviously so limited to the N64 hardware, there wasn't much to do in those levels. So if you're revisiting a level, you might be doing it only like 2 or 3 times. Whereas there's so much to do in Pokemon Snap. New Pokemon Snap. Great title, by the way.
Oh yeah. Very Nintendo title.
So there's a lot more to do in all of these levels. So you're constantly going back, and as much as there is to figure out and kind of interact with the environments and stuff like that, it was just, like you said, I've seen this volcano region 20 times already.
Right.
I'm done. Like obviously I can't figure this part out, so I'm just going to move on to the next one and never look back.
Sure.
Very cool.
Also no Blockbuster kiosk, but I'll give it a slide.
Jeez,
that's
disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait till 2022 for new Pokemon Snap Plus.
With funky mode.
Yeah, right, exactly. So to wrap up, I'll just go over our socials. Look in the show notes. There's our link tree. Check it out. We got merch too. It's down there. But Keith.
Yes.
Thank you for being on this and the next episode.
I know, right? Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I mean, it's the end of the year. Things are winding down. I mean, my podcast is winding down. You guys are going to keep going because that's what you guys do. You are a train that cannot be stopped. You cannot be suplexed. My train can be suplexed. I've taken a break. So, but yeah, just kind of sitting here chit-chatting. Thank you guys for having me on and for having me on next time.
Yeah,
of course.
Do you want to do any shout outs?
Well, I do want to say that if you go on your podcast app and look up the Main Quest podcast, when the day that this episode drops, there will be an episode up on my feed with more Ryan and Brian, where we are breaking down the biggest news stories, I guess, to us. They are all pretty important, objectively important, to be honest, of just the biggest news stories that happened in the gaming industry in 2021. It's something that I did last year too, but this time I got some good friends on. So
thanks, man.
If you like Ryan and Brian, you might like them over on my show as well.
That's true. And we get to swear over there.
That's right.
That is very true. It's no holds barred.
That's true. That's true. But you're also, if to follow Keith and get all this nice stuff, he has some excellent merch on his shop as well. We'll go ahead and put his stuff down in the show notes as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, besides actually just looking up the show, there's I got a link tree that will be in the show notes. Yeah, this Instagram is there. I'm very active on Instagram. I post a schedule up there, which I mean won't exist for another 2 months. So I don't know, maybe this might be a bad time for me to
you got a hardy back catalog.
Market myself. That's true. But yeah, I'm pretty much going blackout until like February. So this might not be the best time to
right. Yeah, but
shout out my stuff. But
yeah, we could always go
all
through
there.
His back catalog and find your favorite retro game and listen to that episode where he completely tears your dreams apart.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. But it's true.
Again, there's always good with the bad.
Absolutely. I feel like you are the
No.
most objective podcast when it comes to that sort of
Oh,
thing.
thank
You do
you.
a great job. It's really good. Yeah, really good.
Appreciate it.
Well, as always, guys, we hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week for the finale, the 5 through 1, the ones you guys really want to hear. But thanks for listening. Have a great week. Bye.
See ya.
Later.